Welcome to Blaine, Minnesota for the girls' final in the U20 division at the U.S. Open. Emmy Fitzgerald with Sarah Lord, and we have a rematch of the 2017 U20 finals. The Warhawks were victorious, but Rogue very strong so far in this tournament.
Yeah, I had the privilege of calling the game last year in this same matchup, where the Warhawks were really able to use their depth to outshine Rogue. I think was the main storyline I came out with afterwards. And I think in the semifinal we saw Rogue's depth really on display. So we'll see if Rogue has been able to correct for that in the past year and adjust somewhat.
And that was one of the storylines from the Warhawks coaching staff, really using their depth. As the first pull is up, the game is underway. DC Rogue on offense to start out. A tight person match. High swing on the far side, it's floating and no good. So North Carolina will start off. The Warhawks mostly from the Triangle area, some players from Boone, a few hours away, as this is their first offensive possession in this girls' final. Another hug. Youngst bats it down, and a second possession, but both possessions so far, one throw apiece.
The stifling defense downfield causing these punts, though.
You can see all the intensity as Turnquist gets the disc, dish it over to Nisley, and Sands will reset it. Collinson. And through the tight coverage, Youngst with the catch. So Rogue started on offense, looking to get that hold conversion. Turnquist with the disc. It's floating in the air. Help defense coming through. And Kate Lanier at the last second with the bid.
Yeah, that looked like it was a really nice inside-out backhand there to her receiver, but a bid came in a little late from her blind side, so we'll see what call comes up here. Looks like foul has been called, and there's some discussion between the players. Get another look at it here.
So you see that separation that Fugel was able to get, and Lanier was on the other side of the end zone, came over to help.
Yeah, and those plays are a little bit dangerous sometimes because Fugel had no idea that Lanier was coming, but Lanier had full vision and body control compared to where she was near Fugel. So good to see no one get hurt there, and it definitely could have been a worse collision. She could have made it much more dangerous, but those are just always plays where it's good for everyone to make sure and try and stay safe.
So Fugel will check it back in right outside the goal line. She'll reset it. Nisley looking for that shot, and right to the front of the end zone. That's Sands. And DC Rogue gets the first score. They hold.
And I think the big point of emphasis there was just how tight the Warhawks defense was the entirety of that possession. Every catch was very contested. Even that final score there, Kat Sands really had to come through and turn the corner there to be able to come down with that disc. So far, this Warhawks defense has been rather impressive.
Very, very tight defense. Kat Sands, one of the captains of this DC Rogue team. Graduated senior, headed to University of Maryland in the fall, which is just right around the corner.
Yeah, no, I'm #1 Kat Sands fan. I think I can go ahead and claim that now after commentating a few of her games over the years and being a very proud Maryland alumni. She's headed to Maryland, and Kate Lanier and Ellie Youngst, probably the most famous player on each roster, are going to UNC this fall. So I'm sure they will play each other a fair amount. Oh, Kate Lanier's going to Carleton. I think there's Dawn Colton is who I was thinking of, who's going to UNC this fall. But she's one of the bigger stars for this Warhawks team. And those two becoming teammates will make UNC very formidable. And I'm sorry you have to deal with that, Kat.
So the Warhawks on offense, pull is caught. Person defense from Rogue. Lanier with the disc. And one-handed catch keeps that possession. There's separation in the end zone, and that's a goal. Jennifer Wang gets the score for the Warhawks.
That was just really fluid offense there. Great job continuing the disc over to the force side, and just a very well-placed tuck out to space, curving back in, sat up there on a platter for a receiver to go get to it. Really impressive throw.
So efficient offense seemed to have worked the way that the Warhawks would like. And when you are the defending champions and even the defending runner-up, it's easy to go into a tournament thinking, oh man, we have all of this pressure. But the Warhawks coaching staff talking about not only did they take it one game and one half, it's really 1 point on at a time, putting trust in those 7 players on the line and the sideline, supporting them through it. Extremely experienced coaching staff. Brian Dobbins, who just saw there, long time coach in North Carolina.
Yeah, the North Carolina adult ultimate scene is also incredibly strong. So, and there's a big emphasis in North Carolina on giving back to the community. So I think when you see these youth teams doing so well, Triforce had a good tournament as well for the boys, and seeing Warhawks here is a testament to how much the adults in the community give back to the next generation.
So Warhawks will pull to Rogue. Nicely receiving the pull. Get that swing and continuation. Working it with the handlers while they try to find some space downfield, and there's the huck. Youngst just snatches that out of the sky. Continuing on, and another hold and goal for DC Rogue.
Yeah, let's get a look at this huck. So I don't think this is the exact huck Knisley originally wanted, right? She wanted it immediately to let Youngst run onto it with her speed. But one really good thing about this huck is that it trailed back into the force side where Youngst already had her player boxed out. So even though Youngst was giving up about 6 inches, she was able to hold her position throughout, go up strong, and make a good play on the disc. And also her vertical jump does not hurt at all, of course.
No, really. She's really been a star for this team in the tournament. Remarkable player who is headed to UNC. So she will have some future college teammates who are on this Warhawks squad.
Absolutely. And she's just also just a really good kid, just a really good person. I got to be her teammate last year on Scandal, and I've just been so impressed with her maturity and just how well she carries herself and how nice of a person she is. Like, it's always very impressive to me that not only are these good athletes, but they're just good people.
And being able to stay grounded is even more important than being a great ultimate player.
Absolutely.
So the Warhawks on offense. Lanier with the disc. And the huck right away. It's floating and sailing. And Ariano with that last second bat down.
She's been one of the more explosive athletes to watch so far this weekend. I think we can all agree.
Got a great layout, D, in the semifinal. She'll get the disc underneath, puts up the huck. Players go under it, but Maria Sutherland is there. There's a call on the play. See if maybe it was batted down. So there's a foul.
Looks like it's uncontested.
It looked like the way that came out of her hand that that wasn't just a throw.
So on the doorstep, Rogue looking to convert, and Grace Alston gets the catch. That's a DC Rogue score. We're tied at 2s.
And I think that was a big point there for Olivia.
Actually, they're up 3-1.
Yeah. I think that was a really big point for her. She had the great D down here. Not only did she show great athleticism, but I think great safety as well, and going up and tipping it away at the last second. And then it is a little bit of an upwind direction here, and Maria Sutherland made a great play on the disc, but she did a good job of powering that upwind and giving her receiver a chance. And yeah, that's a break for Rogue, which last game they didn't get any breaks without any of their O-line starters crossing over. That never happened, and this time they got a break on their second try with just a traditional D-line. Not just a traditional D-line, their D-line is amazing. This is to take nothing away from players like Grace Alston, Maria Sutherland, Livy Ranho, we've talked about at length as well, but without their offensive firepower, they hadn't been able to convert anything last game. Here's another look at that great D.
And Ariano is able to go up early. And then, like you said, she had that big flick to keep that possession going, get the good field position. So Rogue goes up 3-1 early on.
And now they are going to go ahead and cross over a couple O-line players here. See if they can cash in on this bit of a double break opportunity with the wind. It's not insurmountable at this point, but it's definitely there.
So some give and go right off the bat. Gains yards up line. Barry to you. And that's floating high up, but it starts to drop. And that's a goal for the Warhawks. Dawn Colton gets that goal.
A couple future teammates there going up in a air battle. And that was a really impressive read by Dawn Colton. I know she has a lot of inches on Youngst, but Youngst doesn't lose many air battles in general. But Dawn Colton, as you can see here from this replay, got the read from the beginning, stuck to her read, picked her spot, and went up at her high point. It's very easy to get distracted by the defender, try and jump over them, try and go up before them, try and let them miss. Like, she just went to her high point and got it, as opposed to letting Youngst's presence affect her at all.
Colton, also a U20 team member that will be representing the United States later this month and headed to UNC. So, well, that was a battle in the end zone for this game. The two will be on the same team in the college division.
College division and at U20s as well, since Youngst will be playing there. Yeah, it is interesting how much familiarity you can get across different teams in this division currently. We're a growing community, but we're still pretty small in some ways.
Even globally, it was amazing at Worlds how many people, very few degrees of separation in the international community even.
It's a really great pull.
That pull barely lands in. The strike cut. Turnquist with the disc. And Nisley just barreling through, but a foul's called.
It looks as though North Carolina is coming down in a bit of a 3-3-1 junkie look here, which did bother Rogue a little bit in the last game when California ran that against them. One thing I'd like to see them do more is have their handlers change depths better. You saw from that strike cut from Tornquist, she was able to change depths, and that's how she got it upfield. If the handlers stay stagnant and just swing back and forth, you're getting the swings, but you aren't really creating anything for anybody else. So I'm hoping here they can do a better job of changing their depths to create more throwing angles downfield. Looks like there's some discussion here about whether or not there was in fact a foul and what would then happen if it's a foul on the offense.
So they will continue their discussion. When it's a foul on the offense, it gets a little bit confusing of what the count comes in
And where everybody
positioning.
yeah, where everybody goes back to.
So it is a contested foul. It's essentially a redo. Throwing into space. There's Younks to catch it. And a big shot downfield will overshoot the offense and defense.
That looked like a little bit of a frustration throw, trying to work through that handler junk. You see an opportunity to huck, and you kind of just huck before you fully understand what's going on downfield. So that was exactly what the Warhawks wanted, though, from that defensive set.
So now, Warhawks on offense. See a receiver going deep, but they'll keep it in the backfield. And there's the huck. 2 defenders deep, and that's caught. Don Colton with another goal.
That was a really impressive throw, though, as well. The receivers were open deep, but this throw had to be a big inside-out flick that had some speed to it, so the defenders couldn't keep up, but also sat out to space. It's a really high-level difficulty throw because the receiver was coming towards where the thrower was throwing from, so the window was closing very quickly.
So we're tied up at 3s here in the first half. Warhawks looking to maintain their title. DC Rogue looking to claim their first title as DC Rogue. A lot of these players played and got a title as Swing Vote, the mixed team.
Yeah, many of the veteran players we're talking a lot about in this game 2 years ago were on that Swing Vote roster. But at that point, they were playing as like 15 and 16-year-olds. But now they're playing as like 17 and 18-year-olds and went from being good role players on that team to being total stars.
And all of these girls shining very brightly in this final. The Warhawks beat Seattle, Dis Northwest, Seattle Sauce, I believe, to get to this game. So a big pull lands off to the side.
I think the wind's really picked up a fair amount in the past couple of minutes since we last mentioned it. It's now more cross, I would say, towards the direction where the disc went out of bounds.
Nicely checks in, quick pass to Youngst, continues to Turnquist. See some handler pressure in this zone look. The disc is on the sideline. Kat Sands over to Ariano. And through some tight spaces, still good to Sands. So there was a block there to get it back to the Warhawks. Floating overhead, Knisely's able to come through.
That was a big D there for Rogue, trying to get this downwind hold.
So back working with the handler movement. Alston over to Turnquist. Youngst is looking for that reset. Lots of spin. And the handlers for Rogue sometimes are very close to each other, which then the defense comes in, but Ariano catches it. High release backhand. Looking for Youngst, but Cleo Phillips gets that block.
Yeah, and you could see there that the Warhawks did a good job of staying home in those passing lanes, while the Rogue offensive handlers got a little bit stagnant.
So Lanier, far sideline, goes up the line to Phillips. They're looking to move it on the other side of the field. They do. Colton. Alyssa Earhart. Over to Lanier. And a turnover. Ariano will come pick up for Rogue.
Ariano to pick up for Rogue.
So inside of half field, Rogue looking for the score. And who else but Ella Youngst gets the goal.
Yeah, and that was a nice throw there by Grace Alston. Really good job putting it out to space to where only Youngst could make a play. Luckily for her also, Youngst is so fast that the area Youngst can make a play is rather large. But that was some good chemistry there. Good job finding her receiver. But at the end of the day, after all that back and forth, that was a DC hold. So not a bad outcome for the Warhawks. However, the Warhawks had crossed, I think, most of their top players over for that line anyways. So it feels a little bit less like an offensive-defensive hold battle and more just like a top ends going against each other, everyone's tired type scenario.
So DC is up 4-3 over the Warcats. And several of the players for Triangle who were just on will stay on. See the players holding hands, awaiting the pull. Something we saw a lot last year at the US Open with Columbia's Revolution team, something they do as well.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see what kind of habits pass on from the club division to the youth division. And I mean, I think Revolution is a team pretty much everybody can root for, and also a team pretty much everybody can find someone to look up to on, if not 5, 6, 7 players to look up to on. So it's great they got a chance to see them last year as well. And DC is going back to a more traditional defensive line here.
So a rolling pull goes right past half field. LNU picking up. Earhart with the huck, looking for Margaret Berry. And Berry gets the goal. Warhawks answer quickly.
That's another really impressive touch flick huck. We'll see it again here in a second, but going in a slight downwind, she was able to really kind of lift up as she released the disc and just put a flat flick huck out to space. Again, her receiver was running pretty much right in front of her, and she was able to just put it over all the defenders and right in space for her to run onto. That's a very high level difficulty throw.
So Alyssa Earhart and Margaret Berry, 2 of the 3 on the team from Boone, North Carolina. So that's outside of when we talk about the triangle of Raleigh, Durham. And tell us in the comments, the 3rd city in the triangle. I've been there quite a bit. It's a beautiful, beautiful part of the country.
And now Rogue is trying to hopefully get a little bit cleaner offensive hold than they had last go around. The last 2 North Carolina offensive holds have been very clean, and the past DC Rogue hold was slightly less clean. So we'll see if they can get a quick offensive hold going downwind here.
Warhawks.
So disc in play, DC Rogue on offense. And Chapel Hill is the third in the comments. I should know that. Looking for the next pass. Count's getting high. Very close though. It's completed. And she barely catches it, but using that wingspan.
Yeah, and so again, North Carolina is in that 3-3-1 look, and DC was getting a little bit stagnant again, having trouble getting enough motion between the different layers to cause some confusion for the Warhawks defenders.
So some patience from Youngston. Their handlers, they're able to keep possession as they're getting closer to the end zone. The shot's up. Will it stay in bounds? Well, it wasn't caught one way or the other.
Yeah, and that's a rough break sometimes for your offense. You work so long against a poachy, junky type set like that, where they're trying to make you throw a lot of throws and get impatient, that when you finally feel like you're in your jailbreak scenario, you finally feel like you're getting out of it, you can just get a little bit impatient. And I think that's what happened there. Nisley just took a little harder shot than she might have needed to.
So Warhawks on offense, a chance to take the lead. Hanging on to every possession, but the wind catches the throw. It's batted down by the defense. So Nisley will pick up and look to go over the top, but that's intercepted. Disc back to the Warhawks. There's the huck. It's hanging and D down.
You can tell just how much the wind is picked up with how quickly the throws are dying here for Rogue, and just how much that throw sat up there for the Warhawks. It's turning into an up-one, down-one affair for sure.
So a foul called on the field.
Yeah, so here we can get a pretty good look at, oh, well, now they're about to restart play, how this defense is working.
So another shot through the middle for DC Rogue as they are approaching the end zone. Another shot over the top. Last second bid through. Incomplete.
And so far, DC has just not quite figured out this 3-3-1 defense yet by the Warhawks. But for DC's credit, they've done a good job of holding the Warhawks down here with this strong wind. So they've gotten a lot of chances at it. We'll see if they can earn another chance. And Tornquist with another D. I think that might be her third this point.
I think it's at least her second.
At least her second, yeah.
I think it is her third. And you can see all the tight spaces throwing into. That throw around. Turnquist earns the bookends. And the 5th point for DC Rogue.
Yeah, that was a nice around throw there by Coco. TC Collins, sorry. Over to Tornquist. So finally punched that one in. But I'm sure Jenny Faye is going to be taking the O-line aside right now and explaining to them a little bit of how to break up a 3-3-1. So for those of you who are less familiar with 3-3-1, there's 3 people in the front who, regardless of how many people are back there, are taking the 3 main lanes in the front of the field, the 3 people behind them taking the lanes behind there, and the 1 person is the deep. So if you have 3 or 4 handlers and they all stay spread out across the field, then everyone is really clear on who they're guarding at all times and what space they can also take away. So if the DC handlers can do a better job of striking into the second level, getting in between the 2 levels where it's ambiguous you're supposed to guard, they can find sweet spots in there or create enough confusion that the poaches will have to clear out enough that the downfield cutters will become really open. So I'm sure Jenny is now telling them to change their depths more, be more dynamic, move around, create more confusion.
So a timeout was called on the field. Allows both teams to regroup a little bit. Rogue up by 1, but such back and forth so far in the game, and I think both teams playing so consistent, it's hard to even say who has the momentum necessarily at this point.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like either team necessarily has the momentum. If I had to guess, I would say potentially the Warhawks, just because of how efficiently they've managed to score in this downwind end zone. Their flick hucks so far in particular have been really effective. So part of this timeout, Jenny may not only be talking about how to offensively beat 3-3-1, but defensively, maybe mixing things up, trying more of a straight-up force, maybe trying to force backhand. Backhands downwind are much more difficult to sit up into space cleanly, or coming out with some sort of junk of their own to try and break up their pull play, break up their quick strike potential. And then if you're the Warhawks, you're probably just saying, well, we're not going to stop running 3-3-1 on defense, that's for sure, because that's working great. I want them to prove to me they can stop it before I do anything else. And offensively, they're just clicking right now. It seems like the Warhawks are a little bit in control on both sides. They haven't managed to get an upwind break from that 3-3-1 yet, but there's not a lot I would currently change from them except for just keep scoring quick and just try and be a little bit more efficient going upwind.
So, coming out of the timeout, the Warhawks will receive and get the disc to go downwind. Their pool had a pool of 5 teams. So while the rounds were shortened, they had to play more games than the others. And after a several-day tournament, that ends up having an effect. This pull will land out of bounds.
This is out of bounds on the pull.
But pretty good distance on that pole going upwind at least, although it does allow the Warhawks to center the disc and get their whole offense set.
Earhart underneath to Barry, continuing over. And a layout D, Ariano not afraid to leave her feet, gets another block.
She's an exciting young player, huh? Just the amount of explosiveness she has from that small frame is just incredible.
Really nice timing. Gets the disc back to Rogue. Get her over to Ariano. But this time, the disc was just out of reach despite her bid.
And the Warhawks get another chance here to go downwind with a very short field.
You checking in on the near sideline, and the flick pops up, but the second continuation is caught. Margaret Berry with another goal.
Yeah, that was a really good job of following along with the play there. The disc just popped up a little bit on her. I'm sure she was thinking I'm going downwind. There's no way this could possibly go too high. I need to aim a little higher, but she just got a little bit too far, but really good job there by her, or maybe just came in a little hot. Really good job following up and helping out your teammates. One adjustment I saw there from the Rogue defense against this Warhawks offense was they had a very established last back from the very beginning. They had someone whose responsibility it clearly was the far side cutter defender's job was just to stay last back. Warhawks quickly figured this out, and they were able to get an under there, but it did junk up the beginning of their pull play and allow for that great under D by Ariano right here on the sideline because they had to do a few more passes. So that was a good adjustment by DC. I'm sure they saw similar things to what we were talking about with with the Warhawks flick hucks really punishing them. But then a good job by the Warhawks to continue with that poachy, saggy defense, creating a lot of problems for the Rogue offense, trying to go upwind, and one of the swings just went a little too far.
So we're tied at 5 apiece this first half of play. Another nice pull, just out of bounds.
This is out of bounds on the pull. Pearson nicely puts up. She'll put it in play from the brick mark.
So the disc will go to the brick mark. Nisley checking in. Over to Sands. So some swings, but in the space is Earhart. Now Warhawks approaching the red zone, hoping to convert and take the lead. On that far sideline, working it. Looking to get more space, but the swing is incomplete. The disc goes back to Rogue, just a little bit further upfield where they fielded the pull. Youngst in the middle. Puts a little loft on it to get that continue. And you see the off handlers sagging the lane a little bit on those swings. High catch and shooting for the end zone, but not quite there.
Yes, so again, North Carolina is doing a lot of sagging in the lanes. They elected for person instead of the full-on 3-3-1 junk, which I think is partially because this D-line is really loaded up. Currently, they have Lanier, Colton, Barry. A lot of their top players have crossed over, so they're like, you know what, we have the athletes to go person against you, but we're still going to junk up your lanes somewhat. So it's an interesting adjustment there as they change their line, they change their defense.
So Warhawks back on offense. Looking for the continuation throws. We've had some deep cuts, but the passes have mostly been underneath. Now a pick called.
And I will note at this moment, the wind is pretty much entirely died down. It was gusting close to 15 miles an hour upwind, down before, but now on this upwind from earlier in the game chance for the Warhawks, there's almost no wind. So this is a really big break opportunity for them before the wind potentially picks back up again.
And right over the top. And that is a goal. Signaled in. Cleo Phillips gets the score. Well, hang on.
There might be some discussion of whether or not she was already in the end zone. I think that's the only thing I can think of that would hold that up from being a goal. And you can see that the wind definitely died down there as that just gorgeous flick hook came off and went right to her receiver. So it was a good job recognizing the wind has died down. We need to score this upwinder quickly before potentially picks back up again. Let's try and strike fast, and we're able to huck now. So it looks like she is being called not in the end zone.
So the players will have to go back to where they were when the disc went up. Or actually when the disc was caught.
Which is always really difficult to tell exactly where you were when the disc was caught, especially you already run around a little bit. Hard to tell exactly where everybody was.
Most of the time, if the offense and defense can kind of agree, that's part of spirit of the game. And we've seen some players motion goal, others continuing to have a discussion.
There seems to be some debate as to whether Cleo Phillips is in the end zone. It appears that she is not.
All right, looks like they've officially decided she is not in the end zone, and Rogue will see if they can keep them here on the doorstep.
And through the connection, it's incomplete. Mioneer gets the D, but the next pass, as it falls to the ground, is good. Fugel high and up, Sands, one-handed catch. Sees open underneath to Mioneer. Looking for the continuation to Sands, it's good. Over to Knisley, she shoots, looking for Youngst. Ella Youngst, she goes to the ground, but still gets the goal.
Very acrobatic goal there by Youngst. That's really hard to read as it comes over your head, blading in. Looks like a bit of a trust throw there, just as far as like, you know what? I think Ella's just going to catch whatever I put up there as long as I make it so her defender has a bit of a rough time with it.
So Knisley puts enough of the angle on the disc to hope that it will go over the defender. And that is just enough for Ella Youngst to get the goal. Our scores are back and forth.
Daniel.
At 6-5 DC. Half is at 8, game to 15.
To the board.
And just so many, really can't overstate how many talented players and plays that we've seen throughout this YCC tournament. And what's great is that it's part of the ICC, also part of the US Open with the ICC division. So there are some adult players here watching. I mean, talking with the Live Ultimate ambassadors, two of them, Jesse Schaffner and Jimmy Mickle, I mean, they were just so blown away and impressed by the level of skill out here.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they're both players who grew up playing Ultimate and played at YCCs back in their day, I believe. Jesse coming from Tennessee and Jimmy from Colorado. And each of them were big college stars in their own right, so they really carried that into college and are now, I'd say, two of the biggest names in their respective club divisions as well. So it's great when those kinds of players are here watching and being like, wow, I couldn't do that.
So Warhawks with the disc. Barry underneath. Continue. Phillips. And LNU working hard to get open. Get that over to Earhart. Back over to you. Continuing up to Phillips. As the Warhawks look for those handler swings and the end zone shot. And that is a score. Don Colton gets the goal.
Yeah, that's a nice goal there by Don Colton. Unfortunate bit of contact there by Grace Alston, though, as she came in. I'm sure she was trying to avoid, but got a little bit of her legs, unfortunately, from Colton. But, yeah, now we're back at 6s, which is about where this game feels like it should be, given the way it's being played. It seems like it should be on serve still, given the way both teams have been trading punches and playing so well.
So the teams are just both so excited, as it's a really fun atmosphere with all three finals happening right around us.
Yeah, we're turning around now, and we can see the mixed final currently going on, also on USA Ultimate, and then I believe the boys final is by UltiWorld currently.
Yes, and I think that will be tape delayed, but don't quote me on that.
I do know that the Foggy Bottom boys are in the boys final. Another two DC teams. So 2 years ago, DC won the mixed championship. Last year, they split off and both had pretty good success. And this year, they're now both in the finals after winning it all 2 years ago as a combined group. So it's a pretty good testament to how much the programs have grown. They can now field two top-notch teams.
So Rogue on offense. They bring 4 handlers back. That sometimes could cause a little bit of confusion, but manages to keep the possession. Collinson to Knisley. And just out of the grasp will go to the Warhawks.
This is and timeout's called.
So the first timeout of the first half for the Warhawks. Hoping to get the break.
And we just got word that the DC boys Foggy Bottom are up 8-6 in their final. So looks like they're doing pretty well to start. Good job for DC boys. But that also sounds like that's another good game going on that when it comes out in tape delay, everyone should tune into. And so here's a really big break opportunity, I think, for North Carolina, though. Just as far as they have a lot of their top players out there, and they're within about 10 yards of the upwind end zone. And especially if the wind were to pick up again pretty soon, if they could score here, it'd be a really good chance for them to break downwind and take half 8-6. And DC, of course, is thinking that they're going to do whatever they can to protect this end zone and get it back down there and try and go up at half.
So let's take a look at the path that both teams took to get here. Warhawks over Valley, 15-8. And then they beat Sauce from Seattle, 15-10. Whereas Rogue beat Cincinnati Bell, 15-8. And then California Current, 13-11, in what was a pretty close semifinal.
Yeah, California showed a lot of grit. Very good team we got to commentate on last round against Rogue. Very evenly matched game there, so I'm sure they probably would have been able to give the Warhawks a pretty good game as well, given how close this has been.
So, sliding catch keeps the possession alive as Warhawks are looking to get the break.
Just as though a pick was called there on that swing. So far, really good tight person defense in those first few throws by Rogue, but really patient offense so far by the Warhawks.
So Barry with the one-handed catch, just yards outside the end zone, and another pick call.
Part of the problem with running a vertical stack is that the pick calls just come more often because the players are just more tightly packed, more space otherwise for them to cut, but they're just very close together.
And that small pass was incomplete. So disc goes to Rogue. And intercepted. Another opportunity for the Warhawks to break. And that pass goes up in the air and incomplete.
And the Warhawks are really threatening here in this upwind end zone. We'll see if Rogue can just get this downwind hold going. A little bit of time to set up here and see if they'll be able to get some flow.
Difficult spot for the first throw, but it's completed. The next pass, not. So a lot of nerves from both sides. So much adrenaline and excitement in this final. This goes to Barry. Now over to Lanier. And the shot to the end zone. That's good. Over the top. It's a break. Dawn Colton with, I believe, her third goal of the game.
We're down on break.
And right over the defender, but it looked like able to avoid body contact.
Yeah, that was a great catch there by Lanier. Good concentration with Tornquist closing in quickly. And that's a big break in this game. Upwind break, getting back up 7-6. And you can kind of see the body language. Rogue looks a little bit tired. They look a little bit dejected after giving up that long marathon of a point where they had the wind in their favor and a lot of their O-line players out there. So we'll see how they respond here. We'll see if they can get this upwind hold. And the Warhawks, I'm sure, are going to load up a line here and go for this big break and try and get an early knockout punch in a sense.
So they're up by 1, and half is at 8. So Sarah, to your point, the Warhawks trying to get that extra break, take half, up by 2, but Rogue with the chance to work it, essentially downwind. We say essentially because the wind's not that strong, but we've seen some effect of it.
Yeah, it's been back and forth. Sometimes not much wind, sometimes a lot of wind. One weather note is that earlier this morning it was cold and overcast and maybe about 70 degrees with the breeze. Now all the clouds have been blown off for the most part, and the real field temperature's probably gone up at least 15 degrees, I would say.
I was wearing sweatpants and a scarf. Now I'm in shorts and a tank top, if that helps. Gauge it at all, and through the contact, Sands catches it, continues up the line. Alston over to Sands. She'll reset. Youngst to Sands. Looking to tie up the game. That continue on. Turnquist through coverage, and she will find Youngst in the end zone. We're tied back up at 7s.
For what we previously called Galaxy Point, I believe you're talking about, the Europeans making that catch on.
So the next score will take it to halftime. That point was a little bit quicker than the one before it. So, understandably, a timeout called. Considering that you lose your timeout if you don't use it in the first half.
Timeout on the field. Rogue have taken their second and final timeout of the first half.
And Brian Dobbins, has coached Phoenix, the women's team, out of North Carolina. He's the UNC coach, women at one point. He was the coach of a title-winning team for North Carolina State, their men's team, several years ago.
Yeah.
Really, really strong coaching staff.
Yeah, this is a big point here for both teams. I'm sure we're going to see pretty much universe caliber lines for both teams, seeing as how they're going to have about a 10-minute gap between the two halves. And, you don't really have to hold anything back. Last game of the tournament, last game of your season, taking half here is really big. Rogue wants to break to get back on serve. And the Warhawks really want to get an offensive hold here to be able to go into half up a break and then receiving out of half.
So breaking out of the huddle. They chant Rogue One, Star Wars reference. Such a good movie.
I will admit I've seen no Star Wars movies.
What? I'm a Star Wars fan. I really like Star Wars.
So it looks like Rogue is coming out with their top defensive line, I would say. Maybe their offensive universe line might look a little bit different. Probably have Nisley on it at least. But they have some of their big stalwarts from defense like Grace Alston and Olivia Naranjo, and then a lot of their offensive powerhouses like Kat Sands, Karen Tornquist, Elle Youngst, as well as Maria Sutherland, who's been playing defense for them. And then the Warhawks have been running, I think, a little bit tighter rotation, a little bit less traditional O&D lines, but they have a lot of their main players out. Ellen Yu, Earhart, Dawn Colton, Margaret Berry, and of course, Kate Lanier.
So Lanier and Earhart working it from the handler set over to Ellen Yu. Nice cut and fake on the inside of Phillips. They set it to Earhart, over to Lanier.
Lanier looks like she's thinking about taking a shot downfield.
And the throw is over the defender. So Warhawks on defense. Alston with the disc. And low to the ground. The disc goes back.
And I think
Triangle.
I think that downwind and the poaching handler set really made that throw have to come in a little bit hotter and just die a little more quickly than she wanted.
So Phillips with the disc goes to Barry. And high point grab. Earhart nearing the end zone, but a pick called.
And I'm really enjoying this Dawn Colton, Ellie Young's matchup we keep getting. Teammates in future years, but right now they're just really making it life hard for each other.
Nice grab from LNU inside to Earhart. And a quick dish, still not in. There's that continuation. A chance to go to half, and that is still not in, but the next throw is Margaret Berry gets the goal as Triangle Warhawks will lead in this first half.
Yeah, and the Warhawks are able to take half up a break. They'll be receiving out of half, so Warhawks kind of claimed the driver's seat on that point. I'm not usually a big fan of the galaxy point type thing, but that felt like a really big point to me.
It did, and you could see the adrenaline from both sides balanced with that patience. As Triangle is up by 1, they lead Rogue 8-7. Stay with us. We will have more Ultimate after this. at the half in this U20 girls final, Triangle Warhawks are up over DC Rogue 8-7, and we have Warhawks coach Bridget Johnson with us. Hey, Bridget.
Hey.
So a really exciting first half so far. What have been some of the adjustments that you all have made to, really have a strong showing?
Yeah, DC is really good. We saw them in the finals last year, so kind of a repeat of that. So we've had to make some of the similar adjustments that we made for them last year on defense. So adjust our defensive style more to what it is they're doing on offense and try and take away their strengths on offense. And then on our side offensively, we're just trying to take care of the disc and play like we are used to playing. Yeah, Ella's really good. She's coming to UNC next year, so I'm excited about that. I'm a UNC grad.
You're probably looking forward to that. Several UNC players coming.
Yeah.
How about that hug
from
Kate?
Yeah, Kate Lanier is, I believe, I may be incorrect on this, but Kate Lanier is the longest standing Warhawks player. She's been playing for Warhawks since their first year when they were Space Cats, apparently. So she's been playing YCC since she was 12. Now she's 18, headed to Carleton next year. Lainey's one of our younger players. God, these highlights are amazing. The stuff these girls do out here is incredible. I played in the college division the last 4 years, and some of the highlights aren't as good as this. So it's really just fun to watch them all.
It's absolutely phenomenal. So what is the atmosphere like on the sideline and in the huddles? I mean, everybody on our sidelines are just having an absolute blast watching.
Yeah, we try and have as much fun as possible as well. The girls are having fun, picking each other up, being good teammates. I personally am having a heart attack regardless of what happens. Every time the disc goes up, whoever threw it, I'm like, oh my gosh. But yeah, they're just having fun out there. We had a dance party before the game started, and we've been having a really good weekend overall, just in the sense that we're trying to have fun together. Yeah.
Well, good luck in the second half.
Thank you.
And the defending champions, Warhawks, lead the runner-up, DC Rogue, 8-7. We'll be right back.
Everybody, we're glad you're here with us. We got a special group this afternoon. We got a couple of your favorite players out here handing out autographs. Jesse Schaffner and Jimmy Mickle, I think you know those two. Give them a shout out if you want a hand for that. I bet you want one of those too. Come on now, fire up, people. Pretend you like it. There you go. I want one. Come on, boost it, do it. There it.
And at the half, we have the Live Ultimate ambassadors, Jesse Schaffner and Jimmy Mickle, throwing discs out into the crowd. You saw one just gleefully caught.
3 minutes, 2 minutes.
Look at that throw from Jesse. It sails actually right next to our scaffolding in the right end zone. Look at that pile, but it was a girl in front who ended up catching it. So some great fun at this halftime in the finals. Y20 girls division at YCC, and just such an exciting game back and forth. I mean, between these two teams, there are multiple players who are on the U20 national team that will be competing representing the United States. So many are college bound to some of the big top programs like UNC, Dartmouth, Maryland, UCSB. Carlton, Pitt, and just such incredible talent on display. The Warhawks currently up by 1, and Rogue looking to work very hard, had very tight defense in that first half. So let us know who you're rooting for in the predictions in the comments section. It's an absolute blast being here on the scaffolding. We'd like to say we have the best view in the house, but we're giving everybody watching on their devices a pretty great view too. So Warhawks will receive and get the disc to start the second half. Triangle Warhawks in the red, DC Rogue in the white. Coming to you from Blaine, Minnesota. And the second half is underway. Lanier picks up, goes to Earhart, and from behind is able to catch it. Phillips going to Jennifer Wang. Barry with some space, back to Phillips. You with the disc to Earhart. Inside to Phillips. Connects to Earhart. They'll take a lead by 2 if they can score here. And Margaret Berry makes the catch. First point of the second half goes to North Carolina. So the Warhawks came out strong, unsurprisingly, really, in this first point of the second half, working those unders. Clill Phillips, an integral part with the cut underneath. She's 16 years old and was on Kitty Hawk last year, which is the Y17 team. She's 16, so she could still play for the Kitty Hawks, but coaching staff moved her on up, making an impact, as now the Warhawks are up by 2. So Sydney Rader pulls to Rogue. This will be their first possession of the second half. Over to Nisley. Back over to Collinson. They swing over to the far side. Back to the middle as the Cutters are cycling through, but resetting on the far side. A bid and a layout to Lainey O'Neill gets the block. And now Warhawks on offense. Rader goes back over to O'Neill, back to Rader. And the Warhawks looking to get yards upfield. We'll gain about 15 or so. They continue. Some give and goes. We have some switches from the defense, and the Huck is flying up. 2 defenders batted down.
That was better. I'll talk to them.
So another opportunity for the Rogue offense. Immediate to Collinson.
Oh no. Yeah, JQ.
To Youngst.
Seal.
Continues to Turnquist. And there's the deep shot. It's 3-on-3. But intercepted. It's like the disc volleying between teams.
Go, you're good.
Raider inside underneath to Church. Youngst with the layout, but the disc is caught. So Warhawks looking for their second straight goal in this second half. Still a little bit outside the red zone. Working with lots of swings. They're slowly working their way up the field. And a pick called. And right through the coverage, Raider shoots that over. Nola Kim Mayer gets that goal, and that's a break for the Warhawks. They go up by 3. So Warhawks showing so much patience, using a lot of throws to work it all the way down the field.
Nola Kentmeyer in the end zone for the Warhawks score.
They're currently up by 3. That's the largest lead that any team has had so far in this game. So we have about 10 minutes to the soft cap. Warhawks 10 away from a title. DC Rogue needing to hold here and then get a couple breaks to tie it up. Alston with the disc to Ariano. Find Turnquist isolated in the forced space. Swinging over Ariano. And tight space, Grace Neer. Maya Neer. And Alston puts that up, looking for Kat Sands, and Rogue gets the goal.
Pretty close to the end zone for Kat Sands, and the Rogue score.
Alston sees the strong receiver she has in Sands and puts some nice float that thought it may get blocked, but goes through the fingers around the hands of the defender. And that is a goal for Rogue. It's an offensive hold for them, so they will need to get 2 breaks to tie it up. But the Warhawks offense showing so much poise all throughout the tournament, especially in this final. Ariano to pull. Disc centered to Lanier, and the huck is floating in the air and caught through coverage by Phillips. Barry shoots for the end zone, and that's a goal. And the float, the throw had a little more float on it, but such nice read from Clill Phillips. Barry follows the throw and gets that continuation cut. So the lead goes back up to 3.
Prolonging the end zone for the Warhawks score. It's Warhawks 11, Rogue 8.
You can see that galactic umbrella. It is pretty sunny out here. We were talking about earlier how the semi-final game was kind of chilly. Great ultimate playing weather. The real feel of the temperature is 83 degrees, which you're probably envious of, or dread, I guess, depending on where you're viewing. So Rogue on offense. Underneath to Turnquist, to Youngst. The count's getting high. She'll reset it to Turnquist. And a little bit of back and forth. The sag that you see from the off handlers is to prevent the upfield. Mioneer going for it, not in. And through the space, Ella Youngst gets that goal for DC. Their 9th point. But a player down with injury. Ella Youngst has so much explosion off of the first step. So still within 2. Very tight game. Triangle 11, DC 9. You can just see how populous this sport is, this event is. And it's great because these finals are also close together. You can pop over and watch a couple games at a time. So Warhawks on offense. You will take it at the brick.
This is out of bounds on the 12. LMU picks up for Warhawks to put it in play for the brick mark.
LMU headed to Vanderbilt this fall. Colton. And nice layout from Wang. Another layout from Barry. He'll reset it to Earhart. Up the line. Gaining yards. Looking to take the lead back to 3. But some tight coverage from DC. He'll continue with the swings. You just outside the goal. Counts rising, she'll reset. Over to Lanier, and a hand block. Arellano, just such a defensive presence. Layout snag from Arellano, but that continuation is incomplete. You walking over to pick up underneath to Barry. And a line drive down the line. But at the last moment, Chloe Fugel gets that block. So Alston will walk it up to the front cone. Over to Arellano. Continues to Turnquist. And towing in will stay in bounds, Youngst.
Foul called on the throw. No contest.
Uncontested foul on the throw. And a timeout called on the field. Rogue has possession. This is what they need to take it within 1. You can see so many just amazing plays so far. So the soft cap horn has just gone off. And there's no hard cap. So after this point, it's a game to either 13 or 14, and you have to get to that score. You can see the sweeping National Sports Center in Blaine, Minnesota. One of a few showcase fields on the complex. Turnquist will check it back in.
Just coming in on 1.
Turnquist over to Youngst. Youngst with the snag. Over to Alston, continuing Turnquist, but a pick called before the disc will go any farther. Ariano nearly back at the handler spot. And going deep are a few receivers, but cannot connect. So the possession will return to the Warhawks. Barry on the far sideline. Over to Earhart. Now Phillips to you. They'll continue the swing. Opens up more space on the field. So finding some openings is Colton to Lanier. Continue to Colton. That's Phillips. Colton, the every other, and popped up in the air. Margaret Berry gets the goal. So Phillips and Colton, nearly every other. So Margaret Berry gets that goal. So it's a game to 14. Rogue desperately needing that break prior, but Warhawks taking advantage of a turnover. And a long game for both teams. You see a little bit of fatigue reacting. Sometimes that results in some big puts to the end zone. Maybe you're tired, you can't quite get low enough. Some defense a little bit looser, but that pull goes out of bounds. Collinson will take the disc, the brick.
Collinson will put the disc in play from the brick mark.
So there's an initiation play, pull play through space to near. Back over to Nisley. And there was a block, but a foul called.
Looks like an uncontested foul.
So no contest. Checked back in over to Alston. To Nisley. Sands is open on the far sideline, and she puts the backhand up overhead. Youngst goes up, but can't quite get there. And the defender is seems injured. So, and looking to see if an injury substitution will take place. And even though there are 2 observers out here, they are still instructional observers, so they can explain the rule and what needs to happen, but they cannot make any calls or share their perspective on what the correct call would be, just explain what's happening. So there's actually no injury substitution. Just back into Warhawks. Huck right away. Too far.
Warhawks unable to connect on the deep hook. The deep hook, sorry. Philip. Coco Pallinson picks up the road.
Pioneer through coverage catches it. Back to Collinson. Through space to Ariano. Ariano with the flick Huck, looking for Sands. And Sands goes up twice to try and catch it. A foul called.
We have a foul. Looks like it's uncontested. Possession will stay with Rogue. Pat Sands to put it in play.
No contest. Back on the goal line for Rogue. Not in. Looking to take it back within 2. And near with the one-handed grab. That's a hold for DC Rogue. Did not come easily.
Ariana to the end zone. Pioneer brings it in for the Rogue score.
So multiple small passes, but Ariano will throw it to near to get that goal. So Warhawks are within 2 of a title. They will get the disc on offense. So the onus is really on Rogue to get a break. Ariano will stay for DC. As will Alston. Youngst is not on the line. So LNU underneath to Wang. Warhawks so far keeping it on the far sideline. And maybe a trip or a slip over a water bottle. Ooh. That is not fun. If that's ever happened to you and you have slipped on a water bottle that you did not see right off the sideline, not the best. But actually the disc was out of bounds. So Ariano will pick it up. A chance for Rogue to narrow their deficit to 1, but they'll have to score and work it off of the sideline. Tornquist with the disc. Looks over to Jones. Continues to Ariano. She points, and on the next shot throws. 2 receivers back, intercepted by Earhart. And she walked a little too far past the goal line, so Lanier, first swing. LNU, line drive of a Huck. It's good to Clill Phillips. Warhawks approaching scoring territory. Earhart to you. You so consistent. And she shoots to the end zone, finds Clill Phillips. And that is a goal for the Warhawks.
That's Warhawks 13, row 10.
And you could see Yu's head was on a swivel, just looking to see what was there, and that gave enough time for Phillips to really create her cut. As the Warhawks get to 13. So on the boys' field, Foggy Bottom boys just won a thriller, 13-12. So Swing Vote, that won the championship a few years ago, they split, a lot of those players split into boys and girls teams, Foggy Bottom boys and Rogue. So the boys just won, the girls down by 3 in the final. Lots of excitement here at the National Sports Center. Look at that hang time from the pole, caught by Collinson, sent to Nisley. Some handler movement in the backfield. Count rising. Sands is open. Moves up the line to Heil. And near the sideline, Barry runs through to get the block. And a turnover. Disc will go back to Rogue. Heads up, it's still floating. Caught by Turnquist. And it's floating. And straight to Ella Youngst. That's a score for DC. They are still down by 2. Warhawks will get the disc. But this critical for Rogue to even have the opportunity to get the break back, relying so heavily on Ella Youngst. So a timeout is called by Rogue. looking to rest some of their players quickly in a timeout, knowing that they will need a break. Their DC friends just came over from the field. They're right around our scaffolding to cheer for their friends. See the Triforce boys in one of the end zone. That's the U20 team out of the Triangle. So the Warhawks will get the disc on offense. If they can convert, that is game over. DC will need to get the stop, forced turnover, and then capitalize and take advantage. And then have to do it again to force it to double game point. They've shown the grit and tenacity. We'll see how they match against the poise and athleticism of the Warhawks.
Thanks, Coach. Nice coaching out there, Coach.
So Ariano will pull.
Extension for the season. Oh no, the season's already.
Lanier will pick up over to Earhart. Isolation in the middle to Colton, over to Barry. Earhart to Colton. Back over to Earhart, looking to the end zone. And Don Colton gets the goal. That will give the Warhawks their second consecutive title. And what a put from Alyssa Earhart as Don Colton is able to find that separation. Triangle Ultimate Warhawks are your U20 girls champion as they defeat DC Rogue 14-11. You see the patience from the handlers as well as their skilled hucks over to some athletic and also skilled receivers for a very exciting finals. Hard fought by DC Rogue. Also making some amazing plays. Ariano with her layout Ds. Certainly youngst with the skying grabs and speed. Just right out of the air. So hard fought both ways. In the end, the Warhawks will be victorious. We're so glad that you tuned in. This is produced by Fulcrum Media. It's presented by USA Ultimate. I'm Emmy Fitzgerald. Thanks for watching. See you next time.